Alright, I just got done doing the Path of the Flood 14 miler. There's also an 8 mile and a 5K option for the race. I did the 14 again. Finished in like 125 flat. At least that's what my watch said. So that's like a 6:10 pace. I started, well, it was like a rolling start today. So you had like an hour to start, starting at 7 o'clock, and you had till 8. There was like a little bit of a mass start at 8 o'clock, but everybody, but like 12 of us started before 8 o'clock. I actually started like 2 minutes before 8. Anyway, yeah, so I started like 7:58 instead of 8 with everybody else, or the other 12 people that waited till the 8 o'clock start. I wanted to, well, I probably could have started a little earlier, but I wanted to see the mass start, so I didn't even take the bus up, because they bus us to the starts for each race, because it follows the Path of the Flood trail. It's basically all rail trail. There's maybe, well, not all rail trail, there's probably 3 to 4 miles of actual like asphalt, maybe a half mile of actual like dirt trail. It's like on the newer section. But anyway, we got bused to the start, and I took like the last bus because, well, let me sleep in a little bit later, probably like another 20 minutes. I only got 4 hours last night anyhow. And then I wanted to chase people down since it was a rolling start. If it was a mass start, you know, I would have started with the masses and then, like, you know, been able to tell who was in the lead or whatever. But being like a rolling start, I wanted to start in the back and then just chase people down, motivation, and then I could key in on their backs to run faster without really having to push. It's one of those running tricks. If you see somebody ahead and you zone in on their back, you actually start running faster without having to actually run fast, like mentally push yourself. You ask any runner that's ever done that, they'll tell you that's the truth. Other studies say that you actually run faster if you actually zone in on something ahead of you or another runner. It does work. Anyway, so I wanted to chase people down and just, you know, pick people off one by one, I guess is how to say it, as they came into view, to help me run faster and stay consistent during the whole race. Also, a little trick, since it was a little bit of a rolling start, I actually started behind the mats a little bit, since there was no mat, like no group. I could actually get like a little bit of a running start across the mat, so it probably saved me a second or two, no more than like 3, just because I was already running when I crossed the mat. Actually, we had to fix it when I finished, because I was already in such a fast pace. The timer and the mats didn't actually pick me up as I crossed, but everybody knew I started at 2 minutes till. The mat timer guy knew I started there, and then even my GPS, we all knew. It just basically kicked me an hour behind when I actually finished, because it thought I started at 7, not 8. But we did fix it, and it was correct. I got the data to prove that it was that. But I just wanted to bring that up, that having that running start going across the mat actually didn't allow the mats to read my chip. So that's something to keep in the back of my mind for other races, so I don't do that again. But I went out probably a little bit too fast in that first 10th or 2, because you have like a 10th flat and then you go right up this hill, and I started feeling it in my legs right away once I hit that hill, because I was already going way too fast, faster than I should have been. And right away I actually thought I probably ruined my race, because my legs were burning in that first little hill, even though it's probably only like 50 feet. I was definitely feeling it in my lungs and my legs. But it's a net downhill race. I got like 975 down, 594 up. even though it's a downhill race and it follows the path of the flood, there is still a decline. Well, obviously there's a decline, but there is a couple hills. It's not just downhill the whole time, just because the way that the trails are made and just how things work out, I guess. So then you got those first couple hills. I was really feeling it in that first mile, just kicking myself in the ass for going out way too hard too soon. Even though I did decent warm up, I jogged around a little bit. It was a little bit chilly, but once I got ready, I zoned in and got in the race mode. That's why I took off so fast early on, because I just had that click going. Yeah, so I mean, basically the whole race, I got to pass people, which was nice. It just let me stay focused on the next person, the next person, the next person, instead of actually being out in front and having to like push myself mentally. So it was a nice change of pace, even though I prefer like a mass start, so I actually know where I'm at position-wise the whole race. I can look behind me and see if somebody's chasing me. That's the only downfall with a rolling start, is you don't know, and you have to push the whole time. Because if somebody started at 7, how am I supposed to know if I'm starting at 8? You know what their time is or where my position is. So you have to push the whole time. That's why I'm not a big fan of the rolling starts, because you waste more energy than you normally have to, unless you want to push the whole time. So we get out of like the South Fork area. We go up this little hill now by the museum in town, whatnot. Did kick my butt a little bit, but after that I recovered because there was a downhill, and then that's when the downhill really kicked in a little bit, so I had a chance to recover, which was nice. It saved me a little bit. Then once we actually hit the rail trail part, get off the road, I just started cruising a little bit. I know I'd have to look at my times, my mileage, but I was hitting like low 6s, like 6:10 for the first couple miles or under. I was shooting, well, I guess going in, I wanted to be under 130. I wanted to hit that 125. I thought that was possible. That would be like a 6:30 pace. Well, 130 would have been like a 6:30 pace. So I wanted to be under that as much as possible. Shoot for, worst case scenario is 130, but I wanted to shoot for at least a 125 or under to place in the top 3, because I really wanted to win this race. I was hoping to. Yeah, so once we hit the rail trail, I ran into a lot more people from the start of the race before me, which was nice. I really didn't focus too much at all on the terrain in that first part of the race or in my music. I just kept seeing people like and then weaving in and out and around them. I guess just mentally zoned in on that aspect. Then, yeah, I think I did take water at each aid station today, and Gatorade. Splashed myself a few times with water. It was a little bit hot once you started. I warmed up pretty quick. It got very moist all over. Yes, I used moist. I think, yeah, probably about mile 6 or 7. Somewhere in that range, I felt my stomach start to turn a little bit. We're gonna have to go to that bathroom stage, which really started to worry me, because the pace I was on, I really couldn't afford to stop and go to the bathroom and waste a couple minutes. I just thought, you know, maybe jump off into the woods real quick or behind somebody's house if I had to, but it still would have cost me too much time. So I just tried to, I guess, suck it back in, squeeze my butt cheeks through, whatever you want to do it. Runners know how to do it, unless it's a really bad one, how you just like keep it in and like push it back up. But it did worry me. It did probably slow me down probably cost me a minute or two at least during the whole race. The rest of the race, just worrying about it. Not too much happened. I mean, I did worry the whole time if I was going to be fast enough to win, because you just don't know. And I was like, well, even if I'm doing like 6.10s, even 6.20s, I mean, it's still beatable depending on who shows up. But there's too many unknowns today to know, like, the whole field, you know, who was who or what they were capable of. So even in the back of my mind, the whole race, that was another aspect that just kept popping up in, am I going fast enough? Am I going to be fast enough? Because at one point, before the tunnel, I looked at my watch and I was like, 8 minutes. I was like, there's no way I'm doing an 8 minute right now. It was just because of the service at the time. GPS wasn't picking up the speed. And I was just like freaking out a little bit. I was like, you're pushing really hard right now. There's no way you're doing an 8. But then once the mile hit, it was still in the low 6s. So that was a little bit of a relief. Right before the tunnel, I passed a couple people, and there was one person in the tunnel. I just zoned in on, I think she was probably a little bit more than halfway when I entered. Usually I just zone in at the light at the end of the tunnel, because I know the tunnel inside's pretty smooth and you're not going to trip on nothing. So I just usually zone in at the light at the end of the tunnel and just focus on that instead of, you know, your footing or try to adjust my eyes. It's just easier to zone in. But today I saw that runner ahead of me and I just zoned in on her back for something different, and it worked too. Like the rest of the race, I zone in on people's backs just to keep running faster. And then there's the harder part right after the tunnel. You get down, but you got to watch for those speed bumps that they have for water, so it doesn't lay on the trail. Then you hit that one little hill. I did that pretty good, and I kept a pretty good pace there. Yeah, I popped out like a Conemaugh after that. But I do know, like, where the incline really got a little steeper than, you know, the average downhill, that's when, like, the bathroom situation rose every time. It just felt like that decline just kept, however it affects me, it just, you know, maybe it makes me bounce more or whatever. It just kept popping up in. But then when I hit the asphalt, you know, like coming out of Conemaugh, I pushed a lot harder there because of the hard surface, just trying to make up time. Plus there's a little bit of a downhill there, so I was probably doing like a 5:20, I think, is when I looked at my watch. Not for the whole mile, but just that little road section there. But then I ended up slowing up on the bridge because there's a bunch of people on the bridge. Yeah, then came down off the bridge with the car wash and the 5K started. I was actually going to go use the porta-john there, but it was off to the left and off the route we were on at the time. So I was like, I can't waste 20 seconds just going there. So I just pushed through and it actually went away because I quit thinking about it. I knew I had to quit thinking about it. Then I hit the dirt trail. I did slow up a little bit on the dirt trail just because of the surface. It was a little bit slicker, but nothing unrunnable. I mean, it was a little bit wet today in there, a little bit moist. But I did try to push a little bit harder there. Did the switchbacks going down, pushed again there because the free up the speed again. And then once I popped out, whatever it's called, whatever area that is, and we hit the asphalt again, I knew I had to push for that last like 2 miles. And that's what I did. Then once we got to that last mile, I just kept pushing. I was like, this is either gonna make or break your race. I almost got hit by a car because I had to go around a big ass puddle, I think by the police station, right before the police station. don't know, it was pretty straightforward. Today, again, my plan was just to use the runners in front of me to run faster, easier, without really having to think about pushing the whole time. But again, then you don't know what's actually in that hour span, like who's fast enough and who's not. But I'm happy I won. At least right now I won. So that tops off, I guess I want to call it every major race in Johnstown. I finally ran and won them all, like morleys, the Johnstown Marathon, you know, like Jim Mayer 5K, those type of races. I've won them all. So I can say like I've won all the major ones now in Johnstown. Cross that off my list of things to do and accomplish in life. So that's nice. Saw a lot of friends today, got to talk to a lot of nice people. The only thing is right now, we're like 99% sure I won with my 6'10 and 125 flat. There was one dude that was still time-wise who had like a 114, which would have been like a 5'10. I think it's what the pace was overall. So like a 228 marathoner minus 10 minutes, like a 218 marathoner. And we really basically said that there's no way, and he didn't stick around, you know, or anybody seen anybody like that looked faster was running that fast. So we're 99% sure I won. I'm pretty confident because I looked up his Pittsburgh time and it was like a 1:58 for a half, which was like 9 minutes. So he basically ran the 8 mile, not the 14. But we don't know who he is, but we're pretty sure that I still won. But I guess we'll find out in a couple of days. But I'm gonna say I won today, because there's no way you're doing a like a 218 marathon and then, you know, you're a sponsored athlete if you're doing that fast. So that's the only question mark right now, but we'll see. I still feel pretty good. I'm gonna go run some more later on here. Get my 20 in for the day. I felt generally pretty good all race. No real issues, except for having to go to the bathroom. I think my stomach held up, even though this morning I did have to switch breakfast. I thought I had more breakfast sandwiches, and I didn't. So I had to use toaster pastries this morning, which I never ate before a race. So that may be why my bathroom, you know, my stomach kicked in a little bit earlier. Or it's just because I ran so fast out that first mile, you know, all the blood cells went to my legs too early instead of my intestines, because that's what happens when you run so fast. Your blood and stuff goes more to your muscles that you're using at the time. Even if you're like lifting or whatever exercises you're doing, the blood goes away from your intestines and goes to the muscles you're using. So that's why runners have bathroom issues all the time. So good thing to know if you're having issues, maybe you're running really fast and redlining is why you're having bathroom issues. But other than that, it was another good race. Perfect weather. It's like 60 degrees now. It's about what it was at the start. It is sprinkling off and on, but it's more of a mist than an actual rain. And I don't think it may have misted a little bit during the race, but nothing to be really noted. So that's nice as well. And I don't know, I think it was pretty organized this year. Seemed like there was more aid stations than in years past, but it's probably the same amount if I go and think about it. So like I think the first two were like 3 miles apart. So like mile 3, then mile 6. But then they seem to be more frequent after that. I think that was pretty good. They had everything set up at the aid stations, water and Gatorade for everybody, so you didn't have to wait or be stuff poured. So that's always a plus when races do that. The after party was pretty good, and they had a band, some pizza, beer if they were drinking. Oh, it just seemed like a good year this year with everything getting back post-COVID. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I enjoyed it. Looking forward to next year already. I know everybody else seemed to enjoy it again this year, as they usually do. The crowd was pretty happy. I don't think anybody was upset. I didn't see nobody upset today.